Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Belomo, where we discuss all things estate planning and elder law, and, well, hey, anything else we want to talk about. And today is going to fall squarely in the estate planning and elder law category, as I'm going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, but also that we've been getting a lot of questions about, especially in light of the new workshop model that we are using, that we have done other radio shows to discuss. Specifically today, we're going to talk about the house and why you should put your house in a trust. So we have been getting all kinds of emails and reach outs in regards to what kind of topics they would like to hear on this radio show. And the one that just keeps coming up, and even though we've discussed it in other podcasts and other situations, I want to talk today specifically about the advantage of putting your house in a trust and what that does for you later in terms of opportunities that it's going to open up and things that it allows you to do later. One of the common things that we will hear often in the practice is, well, all I have is the house. You know, my biggest asset is the house. And other than that, and maybe some retirement assets, I don't have a lot of other extra cash or other extra investments. So therefore, I don't need an asset protection trust. And I disagree wholeheartedly. In fact, I believe that that means it's all the more reason why it should be the asset that you put in. It should be the play that you make, mainly because that is the biggest thing that you want to transfer. That is what you want to have a legacy. That is what you want to make sure that your family is able to get. Now, whether it be the actual house or the proceeds from the house, but by simply putting your house in a trust, that will allow you to have all kinds of opportunities later. So that's going to be the show today, and I am really excited. As you can probably tell, we're going to have a lot of fun today. Just a reminder to my listeners that at Belomo & Associates, we are education-based law firm where we want to educate you so that what happened to my family does not happen to yours. We want to make sure that when you're in that crisis situation, whether it be the hospital, whether it be the nursing home, that's not the time to learn about this area of the law. And because there are not a lot of practitioners actually doing this and doing presentations and spreading the word, it is very often, in fact, a day doesn't go by where I don't hear, wow, I can't believe I didn't know about this. I had no idea. Nobody ever told me. And not just clients. I'm talking healthcare professionals. I'm talking financial professionals. There is a reason why we have been doing professional boot camps now for over 12, 13 years. 4 times a year, usually 75 to 100 people in a room, and these professionals are getting credits. So yeah, a lot of them might be coming to the room to get the credits. I'm certainly not stupid, but when they leave, the feedback that we get is, I had no idea. I had no clue that this could be done and that it is being done, and with complete success, no clue. So it is rewarding for me when I hear that feedback. And there's a reason why they keep coming and why they keep bringing their friends, and it keeps growing and growing, is because this is information that is just not being shared, not only to the public, but also specifically to other professionals to be able to help their clients, their patients, the people that they work with on a regular basis. So please, if you would like to get educated at Belomo & Associates, we have offices in York and Lancaster, and we offer these workshops on a very regular basis. In the estate planning context, on a weekly basis, we also offer crisis Medicaid planning workshops for individuals or family members who are in a nursing home or who may need nursing home care, either in the home or in the nursing home within the next 6 months to a year. You want to plan ahead. You want to know what to get started on. You want to know what the issues may be that you're going to come into, or not even issues, just what can you do ahead of time to be prepared, because if you have that feeling that it's going to happen, chances are it will. It's very common that when somebody says to me, I think my mom may, or I think my spouse may, almost at 100% certainty I see them within the next few months. So if that is where you're at mentally, I would get started, at least to know what is going to occur. We also do tons of community presentations on special needs planning. And for those of you who lost an individual, we do probate and trust administration workshops for individuals who call in to have us assist with their administration process. We believe it is very important for the executors, the trustees, to know, what does it mean to be a fiduciary? What does it mean to be personally liable in an executor role? But why that isn't necessarily a big deal, and why you just have to make sure that you do it the right way. But that's why you don't want to go alone. That's why you don't want to try to do this on your own. It is simple to open an estate. Simple. But it's not so simple to meet the requirements for notice and advertising and inheritance tax returns and fiduciary returns. And it's at a point where when people start estates on their own, we actually won't help in the back end because it becomes a mess. We have to undo. We have to really detail what was done, what wasn't done, was it done correctly. It's a lot less work for us to just take it from the beginning. So that's why we're offering these workshops for people who are going to be sitting in that role, so that we can just tell them up front, look, this is what you're going to need to do. This is what we have to watch out for. This is the timing. This is what to tell the family. This is how you should interact with the beneficiaries. This is what you need to do. So in basically all areas of estate planning and elder law, we have an educational workshop. The probate and trust administration and special needs presentations that we do are primarily on links. The special needs ones, we do a lot in the community. We are often doing those in the community, but we do have links for all of our workshops that you can watch in the privacy of your home. Our estate planning and our crisis Medicaid planning workshops, we can live Zoom. So while we're in the room teaching a live room, we also can have you at home in the comfort of your home watching the actual one that is occurring. And that is a really nice benefit as well, because then you're hearing the questions in the room that night and have an ability to communicate and ask questions in regards to the information that you're hearing. So that is also another wonderful opportunity. If you would like to get educated, our number is 717-845-5390, or check us out on the web at www.belomoassociates.com. We look forward to seeing you, to educate you, and to make sure that you know what you need to know before it happens, so that in that crisis, you're not stressed out about what's going to occur. You know, and you also know who can help you with that. So we would love to be a part of that journey in your life with you. All right, on to today's episode. I want to talk about the advantages of putting your house in a trust. And as I kind of briefly mentioned, one thing that we're finding as an added benefit to bringing our prices down under this new model by 58% is that we're now at a price point where people can get their house in the trust. They're not worried about the cost. It's worth it. It justifies it. The value is there. And then it allows for a lot of opportunity later. So specifically, let's just take a step back. Remember, a trust is a contract between three parties: the grantor, the person who creates it; the trustee, the person who controls it; and the beneficiary, the person who receives it, right? All right, now, when we teach trusts, remember, trusts themselves are the legal contract that tell us what is the relationship between those three parties. What most of us know about trusts, we know about from when the federal estate tax limit was $600,000, and then it went to $1 million. But even at $600,000 and $1 million, a husband and wife could only have $1.2 million or $2 million respectively, depending on which time period it was, which that is not a lot. And for federal estate tax purposes, you're including life insurance, you're including all kinds of stuff. So there were a lot of people who had major federal estate tax problems. And back in the 90s, when it was that kind of rate, we're looking at 55% tax back then. So yes, people were definitely doing tax trucks left and right. Now, here we are in 2023, and the federal estate tax limit as we sit here today is $12.92 million a person and $12.92 million for the other spouse. And yes, I fully understand that in 2026, we're probably looking under the current law for it to be right around $6 million apiece. That is still $12 million for a husband and wife. And even a single individual looking at a $6 million number, that is a very high number. And you can always do planning as we get closer if that number will actually come down if you have that issue. But what we're finding right now that is really causing a lot of kind of angst. In fact, I had a client this week who did a trust when the federal estate tax limit was at $1 million. And they did a tax trust where it got outside of their estate for tax purposes. They had to give up control. They could not be the trustees. Well, what they put in there were two really, really special properties to them, specifically hunting cabins, and the children who are now the trustees, who are now in control, are not doing what the parents want. They're not getting along. They're fighting ridiculously, and now the parents want to undo it, and they're being told you can't control it. You gave up control. It's out of your estate. The way you get it out of your estate is to not have control. So my public service announcement is don't rush out, even if you have more than 6 million or 12 million, if you're a husband and wife, and start doing tax planning now. We still have 2 years. A lot can happen in 2 years. We can have the law changed. The numbers can go up. There's so much that can happen. So please don't rush out like that family did back when it was at $1 million. They only have about $3 million of assets, and a majority of it are in these cabins. But had they just not rushed out before it actually changed and, did it because they thought it was going to occur, because they actually did it before it actually was going to go to that number for planning purposes, wait till we get closer. Then you can handle it. But for a majority of people, we're not going to have that kind of numbers anyway. And as we sit here today, 12.92 and 12.92, I really don't have clients that have that number. And I would urge you not to be giving up control. So the trust that we're specifically talking about for asset protection purposes is not a trust to get the assets outside of your estate. In fact, we want them included in your estate. Why? Because remember, Pennsylvania inheritance tax is a very small number. To children, we're looking at a 4.5% tax. And while I know that sounds like a lot, it isn't. It is not. Let me give you an example. If a person bought a house and they have a very low basis, I don't know, let's say that they bought the house in 1976 for $20,000 and they put their children's name on it. Now, if the children sell it later, yes, they may have avoided 4.5% tax when the mom or dad pass. But what they have just bought themselves, let's say fair market value is now $200,000. They have $180,000 from the 20 that the parent had the basis to the 200,000. That's 180,000. Now, when the kid sells it, they have 180,000 of capital gains tax, upwards of 23.8% tax. And in most cases, the children aren't living in the parents' home as their primary residence. They have their own families. They have their own homes. So now there's no way to get advantage of the exception, and now they end up having to pay all that capital gains tax. But had we just paid the 4.5% on the 200, now when it sells for 200, they pay zero in capital gains tax. So it is a very, very emotional move to put assets into your kids' names because you think you're doing a good thing for them. And I have done tons of podcasts and shows on this, so please listen to those. But for the purpose of today, let's suffice it to say that especially with a house, you want the step up. Now, the problem with leaving it in your name alone is if you end up needing long-term care and it's in your name alone, it is an asset that the state will have a right to estate recovery to. And, the one thing I hear all the time is, well, I'm married and I can transfer it to my spouse. Sure. But if your spouse ends up needing long-term care, or you pass away and then later your spouse ends up needing to go, that house is no longer protected. So that is not a move that is going to be a long-term. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if someone's going to pass away. So by simply putting the house in a trust that you control, Now what you have done is once we hit the 5-year mark, there is a 5-year look back period. So once we get to 5 years, if that house is in there, it is fully protected. And the advantage of these style of trust, because we're not dealing with people with more than the federal estate tax limit, they can be in control. They can change the terms. The way that we're getting asset protection is we're not going to have the grantor give it directly back to themselves. So what that means is that once they take the deed and put it into the trust owns it, but they control it, right? They're the trustees. They're in control. They just agree that they won't give it directly back to themselves. They won't ever need to. Let's play it out, right? If parents put the house into a trust that they're in control of, the trust document will clearly say that the grantors, the people who created it, have the right to live in it, have the right to sell it, have the right to buy another one, and no one can kick them out. Now, yes, they have to make sure the taxes are paid, of course, right? That's everybody. But specifically, if they wanted to sell, they show up at the settlement as trustees. The settlement company writes the check to the name of the trust. The trustees open up an account in the name of the trust at any institution that they want, bank, financial, whatever they want. They put the money into that account. Then, when they show up at the next settlement table because they want to downsize, upsize, supersize, whatever they want to do, they then use the money from the proceeds of the first house to purchase the next house. But the magic happens because, remember, that 5-year look-back period. The day that you put the deed into the trust with you in control as the trustee, that's when the 5-year look-back starts. So you can buy and sell numerous times and still take advantage of the day that you put the original house in the trust to have those assets protected. So because you're in control, because you can sell it, because you can buy another one, and you are living it as your primary residence. So therefore, you still take advantage of the 121 exclusions, which mean that if you live in it as your primary residence for 2 out of 5 years, you still get the step up in basis. That doesn't change. So you're getting all of the tax advantages of the step up, but you're getting the asset protection advantages. Now, here's where the magic happens. This is where you can see, even if you just have a house, why it is so important to get it in early because of that 5-year look back period. A very common case that we have is a case where somebody has a house, retirement assets, and then that's pretty much it. You know, they live paycheck to paycheck, or they live Social Security check and maybe pension check to pension check or whatever. They don't have a lot of other investments, but they're living comfortably. They have plenty of income to live. They have those retirement assets as their nest egg growing, and then they've got that house. But watch this. Once I get the house in the trust and 5 years goes by, that house is protected, right? It is fully protected. So let's say a spouse or anyone, a spouse needed long-term care, right? A spouse needs long-term care and they go in. Now, the other spouse is allowed to have a house that's exempt. Am I right? Yeah, of course, right? So here's what we do in that situation. You put the house in, 5 years goes by. The spouse ends up in the nursing home. Now, we have the retirement assets of the individual who is in the nursing home. That is an available resource. For the person in the nursing home, the retirement assets are an available resource. We have plenty of other shows and podcasts where we talk about what is an available resource, what that looks like. And for today's purpose, let's just agree that yes, the person in the nursing home's retirement asset is an available resource. Here's what we do. We sell the house. Now, the house stays, the proceeds stay in the trust, and they're already protected because 5 years went by, right? Yes, okay. Now we take the retirement assets of the person who is in the nursing home. Instead of having to just spend them down and liquidate them and give them to the nursing home, now what we're able to do is to use that money to purchase another residence for the community spouse. Right? So let's say that there's $300,000 in a retirement asset or $400,000, right? You go ahead and buy the house with the retirement assets. Now, sure, there will be tax consequences. And doing that in 1 year, which is why on all of our other podcasts, we're talking about starting to bring those down, taking the money, put it into the asset protection trust, invested with your advisor. I mean, there's other moves that we would recommend. But if we're not going to do that, I'm just simply showing you how just by putting the house in, you now have a separate play. The exemption amount that you're allowed to buy for a house for Medicaid purposes is very high, right? So in this area, York and Lancaster, to get a house over $500,000 is certainly doable and can be done, but not a lot of the clients that are in this situation are upwards of those numbers. So you have somebody with $300,000-$400,000 of retirement in the nursing home. They liquidate it. They pay the tax. The remainder of the money is used to buy a home for the community spouse. By just having that original house in the trust, you now have protected an additional $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and you don't necessarily need to go pay a ton of money to have it done. As far as using a firm to do the application, because you're not protecting other assets. Your primary asset that needs to be protected can be used to buy a house. You liquidate it, you get advice of the advisor, and voila, by just having that house in there. But if you didn't have the house in the trust, now you have to spend down the retirement assets. Now you have to go to a crisis planning law firm to be able to do crisis planning. And as we've said over and over again, we are very lucky to have the crisis rules that we have in Pennsylvania. But it isn't cheap, and it's extremely stressful. So if we can avoid having to rely on the last minute stuff and just get that house in, you have just opened up a situation where now you have a play later if a spouse ends up needing nursing home care. And you know what? If you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but what if the spouse passes? Okay, great. Well, if the spouse passes, then the retirement assets went into the name of the person who's alive, and the house is still in the trust protected. So we still have other opportunities. And yes, we may end up having, after the second person goes in, to do something with those assets. But in that situation, by just getting the house in, we have a play later that's a substantial play. I mean, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars that can be protected that would have otherwise been an available resource. All because of why? Because years ago, we made the decision to get that house in the trust. I will tell you that you'd be hard-pressed to come up with a single scenario that I wouldn't agree that getting the house in the trust makes complete sense for everybody. Everybody. No one has been able to come up with something that I thought, oh yeah, okay, that's a reason not to. You still get the same control. You still get the same use and ownership. The problem with our society in terms of why we think of trust is we were told growing up that the American dream was to own a home. And while that is certainly, yes, I agree. But the problem is that it isn't ownership that is the American dream. It's the protection that is. So what I mean by that is if I have that house in the trust, I still control it. I still use it. I still have the right to occupy it. I still have the right to sell it, to buy it. I have all of the tangible uses and enjoyment of it. But by not owning it in my name alone, it cannot be subject to an available resource or to a state recovery if I ended up needing long-term care. So by just getting that house in, now what I've done is I've gotten it outside of that stuff. But all during my life, I had all the use of it. I had the enjoyment of it. We need to start looking at what we want in our society of the American dream as I want to be the only one who can do what I want to do with it, but I don't want anyone else to be able to either. Ownership is not important. Control is important. And that's why we say that all of estate planning comes down to control and access, whether it be who's going to make your financial decisions while you're alive, at your death, who's going to receive it, are you going to have it protected? All of it comes down to control and access, which is why that's the focus of our workshop. So I hope that today's Estate Planning and Elder Law Show podcast gave you a little bit of insight into how a simple move of just getting that house protected, just get that house in the trust, even if you don't put anything else in, allows you later to make so many moves that will protect your family and allow you to pass on that legacy. It's not about trying to take advantage of anything. It's about using what the government tells you that you're allowed to do as long as you follow the rules, which we absolutely will. And as I always say, there is no need to be a hog. Pigs get nurtured, hogs get slaughtered. We will follow it. We will do exactly what the rules tell us we can and get the ability for you to be able to get that house or those assets that you spent your life accumulating and working, even if it's just that house that you worked blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that that asset or the proceeds from that asset get to your family members and still get you the care that you deserve, the care that you need to move on into the future. We really, really enjoyed, at least I did, this Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law show. I'm hoping that you did as well. Please, if you're looking for education and you want to make sure that you're planning ahead, give us a call at 717-845-5390. That's 717-845-5390. Or check us out on the web at www.belomoassociates.com. If there are any topics that you would like to hear on this radio show, please, please, please let us know. Give us a reach out at Belomo and Associates, and we will be happy to get a podcast together to talk about the topic that you're looking for. But also remember, we have workshops on a weekly basis, and you can ask questions. So it might be quicker and easier to just come on in, ask the question in the room, and then once we get the questions in the room, we do podcasts based upon the questions that we get as well. So either way, we could assist you, whether it be you coming in to ask the question in the workshops, which I highly recommend, or simply reaching out, letting us know what podcast you'd like us to do in the future. I really thank you for being with us today on the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law show, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, we'll see you real soon.